Talk golden to me.
It's my dream to have a golden beard.
Younger but looks older.
I'll even try a squat. Here we go.
Talk golden to me.
The 6 of clubs.
The golden.
This is Evan Golden, a.k.a. Golden TV from the law offices of Berman and Berman. I have two special guests that I look up to, two men that I could call my mentors and my role models, which I say from the bottom of my heart. I got Senator Joseph Abruzzo and NFL legend Fred Taylor. Gentlemen, just thank you so much for joining us. We got everyone on the quad view so we could see all angles. Friday in South Florida, two handsome men. What's life like, Joyce? What's life going on? Like, Fred, how you feeling, sir?
I'm pretty good, man. Pretty good. Good to catch back up with you. What you have, this operation is amazing, first and foremost. This new technology is killing me, but it is something. It's pretty good.
And any Friday we get to spend it with the golden, we know it's a good day.
I appreciate that. So we brought both of you on here because Mr. Abruzzo and myself, we love sports. Specifically, we love the NFL, and we love football players that come from the NFL from Florida. And Fred Taylor, you are Mr. Florida in our book. Obviously, you go to college at UF and growing up in Belle Glade's area. I wanted to talk about that specific area and how it relates to football because I think a lot of people are really just unaware what kind of goes on in there, maybe how hard it is to make it, and maybe why so many NFL players do come from that area. Right. So I've heard of kind of the Muck Bowl. I've heard of Pahokee. I heard of Belle Glades. Mr. Taylor, you lived it. You've breathed it. What comes to mind when we just start talking football in that area where you grew up?
What comes to mind immediately, first and foremost, every time I go back home, when others come to town, I tell them to make sure they look out for the sign that says her soil is her fortune. And it's really the soil, the dirt, the muck, and for me, growing up, playing in the fields, whether it's football, baseball, whatever it may have been, we were always in the fields getting it in. And a lot of times there were times when the fields weren't cut, a whole lot of stuff, and you really learn how to develop this sense of toughness, right? And develop the competitive edge that we needed to be able to have successful high school programs, then being able to go further off to college and try and help those programs become successful. But nothing like Belle Glade, man. It's so unique in itself. Very tough place to come up. Mm-hmm. Even though in its toughness, a lot of people are content with being there, staying there. Some people try and get out, to see what the world has to offer. But again, some people love the place so much, and I guess honestly, a lot of those people can't leave. But home is home. It will forever be home to me.
Now, I've heard stories that so many people come out of there and become so fast and so amazing agility because they're actually chasing rabbits. Tell me the rabbit story. I got to hear the rabbit story. Is this a myth? Is it true?
You know what? I'm gonna tag it as a myth, I guess. But to answer, the story itself is true. Now, if the guys get fast by chasing the rabbits, that's the part that I think is a myth. Again, I always said people did it for survival purposes. You have
they
people
eat the rabbit,
right? You have people that go in the fields when they're burning the fields. Mm-hmm. Way back in the day, they would go in the fields and chase the rabbits as the fire from the burning the cane field would force the rabbits out. So they would chase them, one to eat. And then you have a group of people that would sell them to the people that wanted to eat them, that didn't go in the fields to chase them. So, yeah, man, I just thought people would do it more so for survival than recreation.
Wow, so that's really interesting. Joseph, you want to say something on that?
No, it's true. The players do go out in the muck, no question. Yeah. In my mind, it builds muscle, especially in the legs, and you can't deny that there's something special there. I remember about 3 Super Bowls ago, there was a report in our local press that 11 players between the 2 Super Bowl teams came from the Glades area.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't one of teardrops. My cousin, Santonio Holmes, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers when they beat
He was a
Arizona Cardinals.
Super Bowl MVP,
in
right?
Tampa. Yeah,
I
he
didn't
was
know
the
you
Super
guys were
Bowl.
related.
Oh yeah, that's my cousin, my baby cousin. Shouldn't call him my baby, but yeah, that's my cousin. And but more so than Santonio, for a long period, maybe a streak of 8 to 10 years, definitely throughout my career, we were known as the one school to churn out the most NFL players from one school. So that was sort of a record for a period.
I think a lot of
time.
people in Florida, if you ask them, they probably think Dade County.
They'll say Miami.
They would
Yeah.
say
But we're
Miami.
talking one school.
And then we're just talking one school in that area.
One school.
What school is that?
Glade Central High School.
Now, you got who's better in football, Pahokee or Glade Central?
I mean, I don't know what the all-time statistic, the wins are, but obviously I'm going to say Belle Glade.
And you guys play once a year. That's called the Muck Bowl?
That's the Muck Bowl,
That's
yeah.
the Muck Bowl.
Now let me just
Best
say
game
this:
on earth.
the Muck Bowl will
Yeah.
draw more fans than any Miami Marlins game.
I agree. I totally agree.
That's
And
funny.
it's just one of those deals, man, where you shut the entire community down.
Yeah,
Everything is shut down. People are trying to get off work early, or either if they can't, they're rushing straight from work directly to the stadium. And when I played, there were people lined up from the fence just before the track, as high as the bleachers could, the stands could go. And this is the entire field, around the entire field.
Wow.
Then you had the homes that outlined the school property. People would sit on top of their roofs in rows, in chairs on top of
You
their
still
roof.
go to the Muck Bowl?
I haven't been in them in about 3 years.
Let's
or so.
go this year.
Yeah, we need to go.
Let's
We-
go
we
this
need to
year.
go.
Let's do it.
You know, not only is it big on that day, but the game itself will be talked about for months
Oh, yeah.
and months and months after. How we would talk about the Super Bowl, or when LeBron James and D Wade were winning championships, the Glades will talk about the Muck Bowl more than anything for months.
You mentioned Anquan. His brother DJ is the new head coach down in Pahokee now.
Oh, wow.
So they're inspired by his presence, and they feel that with a change, they're going to be back on track after we beat them last year. So
And I know we alluded to the crime and tough conditions, but the Glades is a special place, which is why Fred said, a lot of people stay because it's a true throwback to a hometown community where everybody knows one another.
Yep.
Everybody
Yep.
has each other's back. If somebody really needs help, it's easy to find somebody. The families are large, a lot of relatives. There's been people there for multiple generations. You don't find that in big cities or developing cities anymore. So there's a special nuance to it that's really you can't find anywhere else.
That's great. No, I'm excited to go to the Muck Bowl, and when you talk about community, that's what we're all about, and that's why you're here. You both gentlemen are committed to the community. The Fred Taylor Foundation. You mentioned Anquan Bolden, what he does for that area.
he's
So
amazing.
you guys all just continue to give back, which is what I think life is all about. Kind of helping the less fortunate, and you both have been great. You put in great positions in your life. You've both been blessed, and I've seen what you guys do, and you don't get the press, and you don't want the media for it. So I appreciate what you do for the community and the less fortunate for both
Thanks,
you gentlemen,
Jeff.
man.
Appreciate
So
it.
as we had a big sign in our office, it was all about the Glades, and still is. And I want to call him out on the cast today. Billy Corbin, who's an acquaintance and friend. I actually said, I've been trying to get him for some time to do a documentary out in the Glades. The stories there from Fred and others are really unmatched, and that needs to happen. Adidas did a commercial out there nationwide.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that really has ever been visually
Visual, yeah.
captured out
Right.
there was one commercial.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so Billy Corbin, you've just been called out by Senator Joseph Abruzzo. Let's get this documentary going. Let us know what you need. I think we can maybe put the resources together. I think this is a story that needs to be told. Mr. Taylor, now, I have a hard time, honestly, getting along with you sometimes because Dan Marino is my true...
Are you going to bring that up?
True idol. And every time I talk about that last playoff game, you kind of give me that little smirk that you're kind of happy what you did. You guys should have took the starters out of that game by the second quarter. No mercy? What was going on in that game?
We were coached by Tom Coughlin. Now think about it. Do you really think he's going to take the starters out second quarter? No way. And Dan and I, we've come to a peace about what happened that day. Yeah, I think I get more stuff from Sean Wooden maybe JT, Jason Taylor, every now and then. But, it was just one of those days, man. And I always try and defend the Dolphins in that they had just played the week before. It was a short week after traveling way to Seattle, the furthest distance that you could travel in the country from Miami to Seattle, right? And then traveling back, after beating the Seahawks. So, I'm kind of defending them.
I'm really going to defend Dan Marino with a question to Fred. Do you think you would have won, or do you think anybody would have won against Dan Marino if he played under the current rules in the NFL where you can't hit the quarterback, you can't jam the receivers, everything's a pass interference if you touch a player? You give Dan Marino these rules, what happens? Does he pass for 8,000 yards in a season?
I think he definitely get close to that. Realistically, 6,500, 7,000 easily. Especially with the the receivers that he had out there. Look, he actually made those guys as great as he was. He made them a lot better. But yeah, Dan is a legend. Obviously, with these rules, he shred the defenses apart. I think the conversation would change from Brady being 1A or 1B versus Peyton Manning being 1A or 1B. I think Dan will be 1. Yeah, period. In the
even
question.
over the Montanas or the Steve Youngs.
Dan is so legendary, and people. I mean, just the velocity, the accuracy, how he was tough. He was just standing in the pocket, didn't care to run the ball. Just smart, knew where everyone was, changing the play. I mean, he was what these guys are doing today in the NFL. He was that. 20 years ago, 30, was it 2020 almost?
It's 20 years ago.
Yeah, so, I mean, Dan was amazing. Wish we had a few more opportunities to play against them before he shut it down.
Well, he'll appreciate you saying that for sure. All right, before we go, let's hear your top 5 GOAT running backs of NFL history. GOAT running. You can put yourself in there. Put yourself in there.
I would never put myself in there.
This man's humble.
Only because, I mean, there was a lot more that could have been done. I don't have any regrets, first and foremost. But just looking back on my career, I, like much any other young person, I didn't do everything the right way all the time. And I guess that was the man upstairs' way of saying, look, I let you do good, but not necessarily great. I did a lot of good things, but that's part of the story, right? That's what I get to share with all of the guys that I come across about certain routines that you have to have. I always tell them about routine versus commitment and the thin line between the two. They look the same, but you have to reinforce your routine by a commitment because we all get tired of doing the same thing over and over. But to answer your question, top 5 GOAT.
No, I like that advice, though. I like that advice. No, I like that advice.
You got to let me answer that question.
I mean, because you need a routine. I didn't always have a routine.
No,
I just kind of... I didn't have. A lot of guys would say I dreamed about going to the NFL. I never had that dream. I was just doing stuff off pure talent, and I never thought that I was doing anything special. And it just sort of just kind of happened. I put in the work though, and naturally because I was naturally competitive, and over time I got better. But I just thought it was something that was just meant to happen, not necessarily because I was working hard. Then later I realized, no, you've been working hard. You've just always had a very humble approach, but you still you don't have a routine. So I developed a routine after around year 5. By that time, I've sustained certain injuries due to the lack of not having a routine, hanging out a lot. I would be on South Beach a lot in clubs in Jacksonville and abusing my body, basically, not getting the rest. And it catches up with you. So I talk to all the young guys about getting in the routine, taking care of your body, taking care of the small things, not allowing them to become big things, reinvesting that time into your body yourself, which your business, and eventually it'll pay you back.
Man, Fred, his honesty is just
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it,
But most men don't talk. Most men don't talk like that. Most men have too much pride to admit their mistakes.
What are they running away from?
Let me answer the question because I want to see if Fred agrees.
All right, let's hear it. All right, so Senator Joseph Abruzzo,
top 3.
Let's do your top 3 running backs And let's see if he.
I'm going to answer that two ways because, of course, former politician. I'm going to answer. I'm from a pure achievement standpoint. I think the GOAT, and partially because I grew up in Chicago, but no doubt is Walter Payton. Best all around, best pure runner. Right there, number 2, Barry Sanders, and then of course from a legend, Jim Brown. But if you ask me the question from an ability standpoint, a talent standpoint, who are the top 3 most talented running backs of all time? I would say number 1, Bo Jackson, number 2, Fred Taylor, and number 3, Walter Payton.
Look at that.
I appreciate that.
Look
From
at
a pure
that.
talent,
I love it.
May have not hit the all-time rusher marks, but from a pure talent standpoint, big, strong, fast, have the ability to break a play anytime. That's my top 3.
And growing up, should I do 3 or 5? I'll do 3.
Go ahead.
All right. So growing up, your number 1 was the reason I fell in love with wanting to play the running back position was because of Walter Payton and those 85 Bears. I think I was 9 years old at the time, so I started watching football just around that time. And prior to that, I was on the sideline, the crybaby in the neighborhood. But Walter, he inspired me to be tough, right? But he's not my number 1. I say that, but he's not. Growing up, he was my number 1 until I learned of Jim Brown. I was able to go back, just try and rewatch his entire career. What he did in 9-game seasons, the toughness, skill set, how he caught the ball, how big he was, what he did to defenders. I mean, he was just a man, amongst boys. So he became my number 1. Sweetness is my number 2, and Barry Sanders is my number 3. But being
So
able,
we have the same 3.
the
just
same 3.
Different order.
I mean, it's definitely the same 3.
I will put this caveat: What would have Barry Sanders done with Emmitt Smith's line?
Oh man, you don't. It's really unfair to even think about what he would have done. I mean, Barry was a guy who played 10 years, rushed for over 15,000 yards. That's average, 1,500 yards a year.
With one of the worst teams in
Correct,
the NFL.
and that was
And
another
they
reason.
know he's the only weapon. You know who's getting the ball.
And that was another reason why he retired. The organization did nothing to bring him help, but Barry will tell his own story. But we kind of know a little bit about it. But no, he's amazing. The comparison at time, people would say, Fred, you're just a taller, faster Barry Sanders. And I was like, for sure. But to leave you guys with this, Jim Brown, people would always say, Fred, so how do you feel about the lack of Pro Bowls or the lack of recognition playing in a small Jacksonville market, et cetera, et cetera? I don't care. As long as my peers respected what I did, how I brought it on Sunday, that's what mattered most. And something that mattered just a bit more than that was the comment Jim Brown said. He said, Fred Taylor is the best running back that I've seen play.
Wow.
That I've ever seen play. And Fred Taylor is the best. He's my favorite running back. And this was a few years back when I was active.
And there's somebody else at that time who's, I don't even think arguably, I think he was the best defensive player of his era, Ray Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
And Ray Lewis.
What was Ray Lewis's comment?
Something along the effects that he was the best running back, the most feared running back of that generation.
Well, we played in the OAFC Central. It was the Ravens twice a year. So I got a chance to see Ray twice a year, Titans, so forth and so on. But we played some Pittsburgh twice a year. So we had some tough defense before they did the realignment.
I forgot about those divisions then. That's why I was confused.
I think it's 2003.
Yep.
That's when they kind of realigned everything.
Wow. Fred, we could talk football for you all seriously, hours and hours. We'd love to have you be a permanent guest here maybe once a month if we could kind of swing something and have you come on into the studios. But we appreciate your time, appreciate both your gentlemen's time. Billy Corbin, you have some homework to do. Call me. Right. We're going to get this documentary made.
And shout out to Jared Payton if we can.
Oh, yeah. Jared's the man.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both again, gentlemen. We appreciate you spending time with us. And till next time, we are out. Peace.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.